It's Willie D, y'all, back with another episode of information and instructions to help you navigate through this wild, crazy, beautiful world. We are simulcasting Facebook and YouTube. For 25 years, my guest today has been a force in Chicago's black schools, winning awards, turning campuses around, and changing lives. Yet, instead of being celebrated, he was forced out under highly questionable circumstances. Today, we're going to talk about exactly what happened, who's behind it, and whether there's a larger, more cynical effort to silence and remove successful black educators. Abdul Jabbar. I always say Abdul Jabbar because that's my favorite Abdul until today. It's Abdul Muhammad, my man. I had to hit you with that. Let's bring him in right quick. Here we go. My bad, fam. There he is.
I'm like Brother Willie D.
My bad, because I was trying to. I wanted to see your face when I called you Abdul Jabbar. But this is Abdul Muhammad, man, and he's the real deal. First of all, how you holding up, brother?
Oh, brother, I'm great, brother. I've been fighting these people for the last 3 years, and Allah is blessing us every day with getting closer and closer to the victory. So, I'm definitely holding up, brother. It's my enemies that are the ones that need to be nervous. I have no weakness in my voice. I'm ready for the fight, brother. This is what I was born for. And let me just say this, brother Willie D, because I live in Chicago, but I was born in Louisiana and I was raised in Atlanta. And when I was in high school, I was a senior in high school, and the Ku Klux Klan marched through downtown Atlanta. And you know me, I couldn't let the Klan march through downtown Atlanta and I didn't show up, right? Mm-hmm. So me and a few of my friends, we went to this Klan rally when they decided to march through downtown Atlanta. And, it was a big protest, big riot. Of course, I was involved in that. That was the first time that I got arrested for being involved in this riot against the Ku Klux Klan. And so I'm just only saying that to lay the foundation, because as a high school student, I was fighting against the Klan in Atlanta. And now as an educator of over 30 years, I'm fighting against the Klan in Chicago.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Like, my thoughts with the Klan, right? Because I would have been right there with you had I been in close proximity to the action. So the Klan is still marching after all of these years, and we know everybody knows that the Klan is a terrorist organization.
Right.
However, everybody also know that the Black Panthers was a community organization. It was all about being self-sufficient, independent, feeding the kids, educating. That's what the Black Panthers was about. But the FBI destroyed the Black Panthers and they allowed the Klan to continue to ride. So every time you see the Klan, you always see that the police are on the side of the Klan. Like if you go out there into the streets and you march and the Klan is marching, the reason the Klan can march so proudly and never have any real problems is because the police protects the Klan. If you try to swing, if there's an interaction between you and the Klan, the police is going to take the Klan side. So this is why I actually stopped protesting. Do you still believe that protesting? And I know it's a big difference between protesting and boycotting. But do you believe that street protesting, is still an effective method to changing things around?
Brother Willie D, I think that as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us, the one thing that we have never tried as Black people is our unity. We have been protesting all of these years to no avail in the Black community. And what we notice is not until we can protest, but it's not until a white person feels sorry for us. The Black protest gets us nothing, but when a white person feels sorry for us and decides to dole out something, that's when we may get a measure of relief or a measure of justice. But our protest in and of itself means absolutely nothing. It doesn't mean we don't have power, because we do. Is that we have been convinced to believe that protest alone or voting alone is the end all to be all. And we know that that's not it. And you know, all of my young brothers and sisters who watched the movie The Godfather, you know, which was based on this book that was written by Mario Puzo, I believe, about the 5 families in New York. There was never a scene in the movie or a part in the book where the Godfather told the Italians to go vote. That's not how they legalized gambling in all 50 states, because they organized the Italians and said, look, we're going to vote, and that's how we're going to get gambling legal. That's not what happened. What happened is they organized themselves to build an economic base and went to the desert of Las Vegas where nothing existed, and they built Vegas. And we know what they say about Vegas. You know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So they built Las Vegas, and the 5 families used their economic power from illegal operations to change the laws in all 50 states. Now we got Powerball, we got Pick 3, we got Little Lotto, we got the boat, but we didn't get it because the Italians said, let's go vote. We got that because they organized themselves economically and put politicians in office to change the laws that they wanted. Only if we, as Black people who love to idolize these white gangsters that hate us, only if we would look at what they did and build an economic structure in our own communities the way they did in their communities. And Brother Willie D, as you know, this is what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been teaching us in the Black community for the last 60 years.
Mm-hmm. Man, look, let's get into this corrupt education system in Chicago. That's right, I said it. CPS, Chicago Public School System. That's CP? I'm saying that right?
Oh, you're saying it right. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So CPS, right? After 25 years of service and success in the underserved Black communities, what do you really believe was the reason that they wanted to force you out?
Brother, that's a great question. I want to just share with your listeners just my resume as an educator. So I've been an educator for 30 years in Chicago. 25 of those years have been in Chicago public schools. When I was in Chicago public schools, I received the Teacher of the Year award. I was awarded with the Teacher of the Year award. Mayor Daley, who was the mayor at that time, they did a proclamation at the city council honoring me as the Teacher of the Year for the city of Chicago. I was featured in Who's Who among American high school teachers for 5 consecutive years. Mm-hmm. I was nominated for the most prestigious award that a teacher can receive, which was the Golden Apple Award, which is the Golden Apple Award, in 2004, as well as 2007. Every school that I've walked into, now we hear about Chicago, we hear about this, we hear about the shootings, we hear about all of that, right? Every school that I walked into, I was blessed to transform that school from fights every day to the fights coming all the way down, from attendance being low to attendance increasing, from grades and test scores being low to all of those things going, all the positive things going up and all the negative things going down. Every school that I walked into, and I've been in all the so-called worst schools in the city. One of the schools that I was at is a school named Nancy B. Jefferson. In Chicago, it's known as the Oddie Homes, and it's the school that's located inside the Juvenile Detention Center. When Brother Jay Prince came to Chicago, this is where I took him so he could speak to the incarcerated young people here in Chicago. Now, Brother Willie D, when I got to that school, Nancy B. Jefferson, they couldn't put the students in the same room together because you got GDs, BDs, Vice Lords, Four Corner Hustlers, Black Souls, Latin Kings, and then they have this other gang called the EBK, which stands for Everybody Killer. And they couldn't sit in the same room together until I got there and started building relationships with these young brothers. It's 85% Black boys that are incarcerated. 15 to 14% Hispanic, right? But it's 85% Black boys. So when I got to Nancy B. Jefferson and I started to build relationships with these brothers and pouring love in these brothers the same as I did at every school that I walked into, Now they could put the brothers in the same room. Now they would be mean mugging, but it wouldn't be no fights. I ain't gonna lie, they would be mean mugging. But this was the first time the same activities that I did at every other school, I did it at Nancy B. Jefferson. So one of the things I do every year is, because I love hip hop, you know, I grew up listening to Ghetto Boys and everybody else. So one of the things I did every year, starting from 2002 for the last 20 years, is I will put on a battle rap competition with the best rappers in the school. And I would get the best rappers in the school. We would do rounds, right? And the students, in order to get in, would have to bring 2 canned goods in order to get in the battle rap. So it was the rap competition, right? But it also served as a food drive. And every year that I did this food drive, our school, whatever school I was at, got the, you know, we collected the most cans. One year, Brother Willie, the truck came to pick the cans up. It was so many cans that the students brought, they couldn't even fit into the truck. So they had to go back and get another truck in order to pick up all the food that we collected. But that, Brother Willie D, I can't even front. On the first day of school, the brothers would be knocking on my door, Mr. Muhammad. Hey, when that rap battle gonna be? That's just how popular it was among the students. So this is just one of the many things that I did to engage the students. I did the same thing at Nancy B. Jefferson with the brothers who were incarcerated. So just like they loved me in every school that I walked into, they loved me the same way at Nancy B. Jefferson. We increased the graduation rates at that school, so much so that the young brothers who were locked up were talking about graduating instead of talking about cracking cards and carjacking. One day I walked into a classroom and it's a brother sitting by the door. It was his first day. He was processed. He's in the facility. I walk into the classroom. All the brothers are excited about graduating from high school while they're incarcerated. This brother, as I was leaving out, pulled me to the side like, Mr. Muhammad, will I be able to graduate now, brother? This brother hadn't been in school. The last time he was in school was in the 8th grade. So he had never been to high school. He's 17 years old. I wasn't going to lie to him. I said, brother, if you do what we asked you to do, you'll graduate just like them. I'm only bringing this up to show you how the conversation of these young brothers who were incarcerated changed because of the presence of a black man that loved them. Now, while I was at Nancy B. Jefferson, I received an email that said 1,100 Chicago public school students went to go see this play called Hamilton. I don't know if you've ever seen the play Hamilton.
I never.
It's one of the greatest stage plays that has ever been written. And I read the email and I'm saying to myself, my students can't go see this play because they're incarcerated and I'm incarcerated with them. I got to go through 2 line scans just to get inside the school. So I reached out to the producer of Hamilton and I asked the producer of Hamilton, will you bring the play to Nancy B. Jefferson? And I worked with the producer for 2 years. And at the end of that 2 years, they brought the play Hamilton to the students of Nancy B. Jefferson. And when we were there, when they were performing the play, the producer pulled me to the side and said, Mr. Muhammad, Hamilton has only left the stage twice. Once when we brought it to the White House for Michelle and Barack Obama, and the other time is when we brought it to the students of Nancy B. Jefferson. And I'm only laying this as a foundation so your listeners can know the work that's been put in for the last 25 years in the most hopeless environments in the city of Chicago. So that's my track record. That's my work. And as you know, brother Willie D, whenever you putting in work like that for Black children and changing their lives around and transforming schools and families, then you become the target of opposition. And that's exactly what happened to me in the city of Chicago, in Chicago public schools.
Yeah, I'm glad you laid that foundation because there's no way that we can have this discussion and not talk about the crime in Chicago.
Right.
That there is a general consensus out there that Chicago crime is greater than crime anywhere else in the entire world, not just the United States. Why is it so much crime in Chicago? I know it's not not too much worse than any other major city in the U.S., but why is it so much crime going on in Chicago? And why is it that with all of the efforts from people like you, that it cannot be, it seems like no matter what happens, it cannot be stopped. It's almost like the criminals double down when they hear about something's being done about it. And do you believe that Chicago police might have a hand in that?
So, brother, these are some very nuanced questions. And I'll say this because I travel all over the country talking to young people. And I'll say this about crime, and people can, we love to fact check. So when we look at crime in every major city, including Chicago, right? The two highest years of Chicago homicide rates, and I ask this when I go out on the road, and the highest year was 1974. 979 homicides in Chicago in 1974. So, and I bring that up so that because people try to say, well, they be listening to this violent rap music and they play these video games and this, that, and the third. So my question to them is, if that's the case, in 1974, we were listening to Frankie Beverly and Mays and the Jackson 5, whatever the case may be. But if you look at the stats, the highest homicide rate in the history since they've been tracking them in Chicago was 1974. I'm sorry to my people who love hip hop, wasn't even in existence yet. So you can't blame rap music for the homicides in 1974. So we just dealing with facts. The next highest year, if you look at the stats of homicide rates in the city of Chicago, was 1994. 1974, 1994. When you look from 1994 all the way to today, the homicide rates went all the way down. I think in 2016 it went up and then it went back down. You can, like all of you listening, you can look this up. So now, the thing that Brother Willie, and most of your older listeners know, is that in the late 80s and early 90s, our generation was the generation that Hillary Clinton called the super predators. We were the ones that they said wouldn't listen and need to be brought to heel and need to be locked up no matter what. This is what Biden, when he was on the floor of the House, was talking about. Us, the super predators, because when we were growing up, the homicide rates were the highest across the country. But in 1995, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as we all remember, called the Million Man March, and 2 million men showed up. And he asked the brothers to go back and get involved in their community, among other things. And what we saw is that from 95, and all of my listeners, all the fact checkers, you can look it up, violent crime went down across the country all the way from 95 until today. It popped up, I'm specifically talking about Chicago, like in 2016, and then it went back down, but never to the same numbers as it was in 94. So these are the conversations that we have to have, because we have this idea that the crime is different now than it was when we were younger. And I'm looking strictly on the numbers that have been reported. And the thing that has happened, Brother Willie D, is back when we were young people, we didn't have social media. So everything that happened was not plastered and put all over the world. You know what I'm saying? But when we look at the numbers, those numbers have gone down. Now, that's not to say I live in Chicago. I work with these young people. I work with them for the last 30 years, every day of my life. And I'm not going to say that, there's no crime in Chicago. That's not true. But what I'm showing is that the myth that nothing is happening or nothing is working, that's not true. That is a false narrative that people want you to believe, that all the work that we put in, that I put in, that the nation put in, that the Black Panthers put in, that Father Flager put in, that all these people have been putting in for the last 30 years since the Million Man March, that has had no effect, and that's not true. And I'm telling you, and I work with young people every day.
Do you believe that Chicago police got a hand in these crimes that's going on in Chicago?
Absolutely, Willie D. Absolutely, they definitely are complicit in what's going on in the streets, and it's not to let our people off the hook. But that's why, brother, this is why people like myself, need to be in front of young people, because when we work with our young people, we're able to turn them from the path that the enemy wants them to walk down, which is a path of crime, which is a path to prison. They talk about the school to prison pipeline. If Chicago public schools was serious about ending the school to prison pipeline, then they would celebrate Black educators like myself. But what they have done is not just attack me, but there's a whole group of Black educators that they have attacked. So they can't be serious about the school to prison pipeline when you're targeting the very people who would stop the school to prison pipeline.
That's right. Let's get into it. You got 7 white teachers who filed over 83 complaints against you. Now,
yes, sir.
What patterns do you see in these accusations, and what do they reveal?
Well, brother, these 7 white teachers, and I'm gonna name them because we're not letting nobody off the hook, brother Willie D. So I came with the receipts. Well, I was elected at a school called Lindblom in Chicago, and this is one of the top schools in the city. Just to kind of give y'all the background, one of the top schools in Chicago. I think it may be ranked number 7 in the city of Chicago, 7 or 8 in the city, right? And the local school council, called the LSC, they elected me to be the principal. When I was elected, and my name is Abdul Muhammad, I want to be real clear. I never have, and I never will hide the fact that I'm a Muslim. I'm not going to hide that. The same way you see me right now is the same way my students have seen me for the last 25 years. So I'm not hiding the fact that I'm a Muslim. I'm not hiding the fact that I'm a member of the Nation of Islam. And when I got to this school called Lindblom, brother Willie D, it's a Black school. It's 75% Black students. One of the top schools in the city. So all the Black students, smart Black students are here. 95% of the teachers are white. Before I got there, they never had a Black principal before. We're talking about a school that's in Inglewood in Chicago, in the Black community. My 2 predecessors, since the school reopened in 2005, they never had a Black principal. So I was the first Black principal at the school, and the first Muslim principal, with a 95% white teaching staff and only white leadership in the school. So basically this was a plantation. The first day that I walked in, the only Black people I saw was the janitors and the security guards. It's just a fact. This is the plantation right in Chicago that these white liberals at Lindblom created. So when I got there, just so y'all can understand, anybody that's coming in an organization is going, things that are out of order, you're going to put those things in order, right? So that's what I started to do. So when I got there, my first day on the job, I noticed that they were doing what is called ghost payrolling, meaning people were not working, but people were getting paid. The person that was responsible for that, her name is LaConda McDaniel. She's the one Black person that was involved in this whole thing. She's the clerk at the school. And when I walked in on my first day, the school was under construction, so there was no students there. And there were 15 people working in a building with no students. Everybody getting paid. So they ghost payrolling. Then I asked her, I said, well, are there teachers? Because sometimes teachers work from home during the summer. The teachers were working from home, another 20, 30 teachers, but they didn't produce any work. You can't pay anybody with no, like what work did you do to justify this check? So when I started asking these questions, then these people, for them, that's a red flag, but I'm just doing my job. Then maybe my 3rd day there, I asked them what I called the CPS office, and asked them to do an audit of the school, because I want to make sure that all the financial records are in order, which we found out that it was not, right? So not only were they ghost payrolling, not only were they misappropriating school funds, it was $400,000 in school funds from the year before I got there they didn't even spend. So the district ended up taking that money back. So, and then when I got there, there was thousands of dollars worth of equipment just sitting in the hallway. And I asked them, how long has this been here? And it was sitting there for 5 years. So when you get into a school, you don't know like everything that's wrong on the like everybody's not coming up to me on the first day. Well, this is wrong. It doesn't happen like that. Right. As you go, you see this, you see that. And so that's what was happening. I would see this, I would see that, and I would go to correct it, right? Brother Willie D, in October when they had their homecoming game, football game. I go to the football game, and it's hundreds of people in the stands, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a brother who's a friend of mine who had my back, he said, this was after the game, he said, brother, did you get the receipt or the receipt from the funds from the homecoming game? So many people here, right? So I was like, receipt for the funds. So that Monday, the homecoming game, I think was Friday. That Monday, I reached out to the clerk, LaConda McDaniel, the one black person that was involved in all of this, and the athletic director. Her name is Christina Davis. I asked him in the email, I said, where's the money from the homecoming football game? They started coming up with all these excuses, right? So I brought them in my office and confronted both of them, right? And they, for this particular game, they lied. So they said, oh, there is no money. But I didn't have any documentation to prove, right? I just saw the people in the stands. So I went back because the homecoming game is the 5th game of the season, right? So I went back, and of the other 4 games, no money was being turned in. So I didn't just bring them in this time. I got the actual facts first. I got the receipts from the stadium that showed tickets were sold and how much it was. And when I came, I brought them back in my office, Christina Davis and the black clerk, LaConda McDaniel. And I said, where's the money from the previous football games? They both looked me dead in my face and said, there is no money. So then I pulled out the game receipts and gave them both a copy. And I said, where's the money from the football games? The clerk didn't say nothing because she knew she was busted. The athletic director, this white woman named Christina Davis, said, and I'm not, brothers and sisters, I'm not making this up. She said, that's my money. I said, that's your money. She said, yeah, I brought money to make change, so that's my money. And I'm like, it don't work like that. If you brought money to make change, you just take the money you brought back, and then you give the school's money. She left my office saying, that's my money. On Saturday, she sent me an email. And I got to say this. I got to pause real quick because I don't want to not say this. Everything that I'm saying, we got proof and we have records of absolutely everything that I'm saying. So what I'm saying is the 100% truth, and I can prove it at any time. And I got to say this too, Brother Willie D. I'm going to jump right back into it. Brothers and sisters, what I need y'all to do, because a part of this, I definitely got to have y'all to take a certain action to help us put pressure on the Board of Education. So I'm asking everybody to go on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. And if you go on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom of the website into a section called Take Action. And if you go to that section called Take Action, there's a link. Is there a way I can put it on the screen, Brother Willie? Because I got it in the studio.
I'm trying to do it myself.
Okay. Right. If you go on justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, scroll down to the bottom, there's a section called Take Action, because we want everybody to send a letter to the Board of Education on my behalf. There's a whole new board, and we're asking everybody to send a letter to the Board of Education on my behalf on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. It takes you less than 30 seconds. All you got to do is click the link. And when you click the link, the letter is going to populate, and all you have to do is click send. You don't have to write anything. You don't have to check for punctuation. You don't have to do nothing. It says click here to send email. You click that link, and it's going to populate the letter, and you send it straight to the Board of Education. We need everybody that's in the chat. I'm looking at y'all in the chat. We need everybody that's in the chat right now to go on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. Scroll all the way down to the bottom in the section called Take Action. And it says, click here to send email. And all you have to do is click to send that letter to the Board of Education. It takes you less than 30 seconds to make that happen. Yes, sir. That's it, brother. If you scroll all the way down. And you can
so where we
keep right there. Go up just a little. If you click this, go up a little bit more. Right there. It says click here to send email. If you click that link, then the email will populate, and all you have to do is click send. You don't have to write anything. You don't have to do anything. Just click that link, and the email will open up, and you click send. So, Brother Willie D, back to Christina Davis, who was the athletic director at the school, who was keeping the money from the football game. So she told me, she said, that's my money. She sent me an email on Saturday after I confronted her, and she said, I realized that I made a mistake, and I have the money for you on Monday, right? So we ended up getting some of the money. But the thing about it, this woman had been the athletic director for 12 years before I got there.
So she'd been
taking the money for all these years before I got there. And when the black man claimed to clean up the mess that white folks made, then the white people, of course, at the school, as well as in CPS. But this is what was going on at that particular school. This same woman, Christina Davis, was covering up student injuries. We had students that were injured in cheerleading practice, and she was trying to cover all of this stuff up. When I got there, this same white woman, Christina Davis, who was the athletic director, had 37 coaches that were out of compliance with IHSA guidelines. They weren't even supposed to be coaching. They did the whole football season with coaches that were out of compliance. So now this is the mess that I walked into when I went to Lindblom. So when I started to correct, and they had this gravy train going where they were getting all this money, right? There were other teachers at Lindblom who were doing illegal fundraisers. One teacher had $5,000 in her personal bank account. I'm not making this up. I got the email where she said, I said, where's the money? She said, it's in my personal bank account. I got the email. Another teacher was doing an illegal fundraiser and spending the money while he's raising the funds at the same time. I'm not making none of this up. This is all facts.
So who's protecting these people?
That's a great question.
Who's keeping them in power?
The Chicago Public Schools Law Department, the CEO, all of these people are protecting these white teachers at Lindblom, as well as other corruption in Chicago Public Schools. Because Brother Willie D, the issue with the Chicago Public School officials is that they did not want a black man and a Muslim to be the principal of this prestigious school. So
now you can stop that black man.
Yeah, right.
That's all it was.
As soon as I was voted the principal, all of these people, the Chicago Public Schools leadership, they lost their minds and they started to do everything within their power to try to prevent the LSC from voting me in as the principal. And it's the level of ridiculousness is at an all-time high in Chicago, but that's exactly what happened. So when I came to the school and I started to clean everything up, then this is the backdrop to the 83 lies that these 7 white teachers told. Because the backdrop is that I was cleaning up the mess that they made in this black school. And when I started to clean up the mess and find out this same lady, Christina Davis, was getting paid $90,000 a year. I walk in the school one day and her son, he might have been 2 or 3 years old, is walking down the hall. I'm like, what is going on? And she's telling me she can't afford a babysitter. Brother Willie D, that's insane. But this is the kind of madness that was happening at Lindblom that I went in and I started to clean up. And when I started to clean up, these 7 white teachers, I'm going to name them because we got to put them on blast as well as these other officials. Say it again.
Can you show their faces?
Let me see if I can get you. I do have that picture. I got to find it real quick, and I'll put it up.
If you text it to me, and I can put it up.
Okay.
I may be able to show it clearer than you.
Okay. I'm gonna
maybe just put it up. Let me see if I can.
Okay, hold on. Let me. I'm gonna try to see if I can find it real quick.
In the meantime, while you're searching for that picture, how do you reconcile being a nationally recognized award-winning educator while being treated like a liability by your own district?
Oh, brother, it's painful. I'm a human being at the same time. So you put in 25 years of work, and I never did it for them. I did it for the children every day, all day, and would continue to do it for the children. But for them to go to the lengths that they went to, and we can't cover everything in this particular interview, but for them to go to the lengths that they went to and tell all the lies that they told, and then for the CPS leadership, Chicago Public Schools leadership, to co-sign every lie that they knew was a lie. Oh, brother, I'm a human being, brother Willie D. I'm a human. I got feelings. So I feel a certain type of way about that. But the thing that they wanted and the thing that they expected was that when they came with all of these lies and they put my name on it on TV and drug my good name through the mud in the city of Chicago, they thought I was going to lay down, because they did. I'm not the first principal they did this to. They've been doing this. The Chicago Reader wrote an article in 2009, and the name of the article is how to get rid of a CPS principal.
What?
So they've been doing this. But what usually happens is the principal lays down. They lay down, they go get another job, they don't want to fight. But when they came to me, oh, Brother Willie D, I couldn't lay down. If I did something wrong, I would just say, look, I did that, and I'm going this way. But the fact that they lied on an innocent man, I can't lay down. So, hey, it is what it is. So that's why this fight started. And, you know, the Holy Quran says, fight with those who fight with you. And so that's what I'm doing.
You said that replacing popular, successful Black teachers has happened at other schools nationwide. You got any proof?
Well, specifically in Chicago, we had, when I got removed, Brother Willie D, that same year, 10 Black principals got removed that same year. 10 principals in 1 year. And 8 of those principals were Black men. So 80% of the removals of principals in Chicago public schools were Black men. So that's the dynamic. So that is what has been going on in Chicago. What we also found out, and the way we got that information, Brother Willie D, is when the Sun-Times did their cover article that's in the background. When they did the cover article on the story, they used the Freedom of Information Act to get the race of the principal removals from Chicago public schools in 1 year. And that's how we know that it was 12 principals removed in that year, 2 white, 10 Black, 8 Black men. So these are just actual facts. So this is happening in Chicago. Whenever I speak on a podcast, on a show, anything, I always get educators that tell me, man, the same thing happened to me. When I was on the Faraji Muhammad show, and his co-host, as we're doing the interview, his co-host said, man, the same thing happened to me. When I was on the cover of the Final Call newspaper, which you see in the background, a brother called me from New York. He said, brother, the same thing that they did to you, they did to me right here in New York. I brought the test scores up. I brought the attendance up. The fights in the school went down. And as soon as I did that, they launched an investigation. They put me in the New York Times and took me out of the school. So this is not just a one-off. This is happening all over the country. And Black parents, you need to be asking yourself, why is there a systematic removal of Black educators? When I first came to Chicago and worked in Chicago public schools, 50% of the teachers in Chicago public schools were Black. Systematically, they got rid of those Black teachers, and right now it's 19%. Chicago public schools was sued about 3 years ago by the Black teachers, and they admitted that they systematically remove Black teachers. So when we see, right, what we see in the streets, everything is cause and effect, right? If the effect is real, if the effect is you got our young people in the streets carjacking and wilding out, if the effect is real, then the cause is just as real. And part of that cause is that Black educators have been removed from being in front of Black children.
You talked about what Black parents need to be asking themselves, but what can they actually do to stop this systematic removal of successful Black educators?
Black parents have to get involved, Brother Willie D. They got to get involved. They have, because they have the biggest voice. They may not realize it. The parents and the students have the biggest voice when it comes to these matters. And if the parents organize themselves and get involved, then they can make demands on the district as it relates to the Black educators. So when people see us, they think, oh man, he just won his job back. That's how they view it. You know, they got rid of him. He just won his job back. And it's bigger than that. The impact that Black educators have, all of us, most of us in our lives have had a Black educator that had a tremendous impact on us and something they said or did changed the trajectory of our lives. So now imagine that multiplied around the country. If you take that away, the question is what's going to happen. Right now, you have in Chicago public schools specifically, the teaching staff is right now is about 50% white. Whereas when I came in, it was 50% black. So this is what is happening, not just in Chicago, it's happening all over the country. I just decided to stand up and fight and refuse to lay down in the face of all of these lies that they tried to tell.
Yeah, black education and you know, just, you know, throughout history, we can go back to slavery and we can pull up on Jim Crow, right? It has historically been undermined. And it's like now we're seeing like a revisit of that type of mentality. Like we have to, if we want to stop them from growing, we need to make sure that they're uneducated. If we can stop them from being, if we can stop them from being educated, we can stop their growth. We can make sure that we can fill these prisons up, because if they are not educated, they're going to be jobless. If they're not educated, they're probably going to go out there and harm each other and commit crimes and stuff. And we got to fill these prisons up, because we got right now they're building more prisons than they're building schools. And who do you think they're building those prisons for?
Absolutely. That is 100% correct. And that's why we need to have black educators in these classrooms with our young people.
Why is it so important to have black male educators in the classroom? And why are they? I guess that whatever that answer, whatever your answer is the reason why they want you out.
Absolutely. So, you know, Brother Willie, the being a black male educator in front of black males specifically, right, gives them a different view. Now, if, you know, I had on lipstick and a dress, you know, Chicago Public Schools would put me on the cover of the Principal magazine and celebrate me for the next 10 years. But when I walked into school as Abdul Muhammad, a strong black man, this is the greatest threat in the educational space, because young black boys are going to gravitate to strong black men. And I'm telling you, from 30 years of work in the so-called worst schools in Chicago. So, Brother Willie D, the presence of a strong black man will change the trajectory. And I've changed hundreds, if not thousands at this point, of lives of the young people in the city of Chicago, and help them to make it through this difficult period in their teenage years. And that's for male and female. The young black sisters also need to see strong black men in front of them that represent something different than what they may see on the block or what they may see in the neighborhood. And that is what a strong black man represents in these schools.
Yeah.
And, you know, certain things that a black man is not going to tolerate, brother. You know what I'm saying? It's just certain things that's not going to happen with a strong black man in a school with black children. The foolishness, you know, we eliminate all of that. And this, and some people think it's impossible because you see these young people wilding out. It's impossible. It is not. And I'm telling you from my experience for 30 years that there's absolutely nothing wrong with our children. They just haven't had the right person in front of them to get what's in them out of them that will benefit themselves and their community. But it's nothing wrong with our children.
Man, you know what's sad is that we can understand people from the outside who have no contact and they're not in close proximity to the kids. We can understand them saying, "Oh, the kid, oh, they're done, they're cooked. Right. There's no hope." But what tripped me out is when our own people make these type of statements, as if we have an option, like as if just making those statements is an option. Like whether you have a child or not, if you plan on being around the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years or whatever, you really ain't got no choice but to reach out and grab these kids. You know, just sitting around complaining about it, right, is really not an option unless unless you've resigned to the total destruction of your race. Right. But if you got at all, even if you don't plan on being around, if you care anything about those grandkids like you say you do, you got to give them a fast shot.
Absolutely.
So I don't get a lot of the rhetoric that come from our own people. The parents and the students, how did they react when Chicago public schools systematically removed you?
So the way they do it, Brother Willie D, and I just want to say this real quick again, brothers and sisters, if you're listening, everybody that's in the chat, everybody that's watching, we want you to go on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, because we need to put pressure on the Board of Education here in the city of Chicago. We went to the board the first time and they ignored everything we said. There's a whole new group of board members, a new president, everybody's new. So we bring in this case of my case, as well as the case of the other Black principals that were systematically removed. We're bringing it back before the board. So if you go on that website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom and click that link to send that letter to the Board of Education. We definitely need you to send that letter in on justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. Brother Willie D, can you repeat that question for me, brother?
I got sidetracked there. I can't even remember the question. I was taking in what you were just saying.
Yes, sir.
But I tell you this, what I do want to know is
you asked about the parents and the students. How did they respond?
Okay.
Yes, sir. So, Brother Willie D, what Chicago Public Schools did when they removed me on March 31st, which was the Friday before spring break. Mm-hmm. So, and that's usually how they do it when they come with this, these removal. And it was not just myself, it was other principals removed on that same day as well. And they do it on the Friday before spring break to blunt the ability for parents and students to protest, right? But there was a protest, but it wasn't as impactful as it could have been because of how they strategically removed the Black principals that Friday right before spring break. Mm-hmm. And then, Brother Willie D, how they do, people bring stuff up and they try to sidetrack it and, say, well, we can't discuss that. That's their standard operating procedure. But the thing is, what they did not think is that I was going to stand up. And when I stood up and we had our first press conference at Father Pfleger's church here in Chicago, then when I stood, then some of the other Black principals who they unjustly removed stood as well. Not all of them, but some of them. And so we've been fighting them. I've been fighting them for the last 3 years because I'm not going to let them lie and get away with what they did. And Brother Willie D, I got to say this just so everybody knows, we have gone the legal route. We had no choice. So we filed an EEOC complaint. We were given the right to sue by the EEOC in July of 2024. We filed our federal complaint in, I want to say, early October of 2024. And we're waiting, that's a back and forth. The EEOC, the complaint, back and forth. We've done all of that. And our federal complaint is before the judge right now, and we're waiting on the judge to proceed with that complaint. So on the legal side, we've done everything on the legal side. And of course, since I was removed and since we filed our legal complaint, more evidence of Chicago Public Schools corruption has come out. And we're eager to go to court and lay all the facts out on the table because we have the evidence that they lied, not just on me, but they lied on principals in other schools as well. And it's all coming out right now in the media. We have 2 principals. One of them, we were in college, our graduate classes together. And it was the principal and assistant principal of Lincoln Park High School. They removed them in 2020. And we found out in 2025 that it was a made up investigation. It's a lady by the name of Cammie Pratt who was mad because the basketball coach would not play her daughter in the basketball game. Yes, this is a white Karen. That's what we're talking about. She mad because the coach sent the daughter a text message saying, look, I need you to stay after school and practice. And if you practice, then I can put you in the game. The mother, who was the Title IX officer for Chicago Public Schools, her name is Cammie Pratt. She did a whole fake investigation on the principal, the assistant principal, the coach, and the assistant coaches. And Chicago Public School, this was 2020. They covered it up for 4 years. And after now this lady, her salary is like $270,000 a year. So they covered up the fact that she lied for 4 years, and then it all came out and hit the news. So they just settled with the assistant principal and principal, as well as the coaches and the assistant coach. They settled with all of them. But this is the corruption that's in Chicago Public Schools. This is the corruption that I'm exposing, and we have the facts to expose it all.
You got the facts, you got the evidence, but do you have a shift in public opinion about
100%? Absolutely.
System?
Absolutely. So, Brother Willie D, usually when
Chicago Public Schools.
Absolutely. So usually when they come with this false narrative, right? The false narrative is what people believe. This was the first time since they've been removing principals with false narratives. This time was the first time that we publicly fought them, and the narrative that they put out was completely reversed on them. So now the public in Chicago and all over the country, they're not saying, well, Abdul Muhammad, he did such and so and so. That's not the narrative. That's the narrative they put out. But we've been fighting them so hard that that's no longer the narrative. We completely flip the narrative. And everybody who's in CPS, who's familiar with this case, knows about it and knows they know that Chicago Public Schools lied. And people who know me, they already know. They know my reputation. And I'll say this, Brother Willie D, when we did the press conference with Attorney Crump, and I got to give thanks to Attorney Crump because he didn't have to come to Chicago. He rearranged his whole schedule and came to Chicago to stand with us at that press conference. We did that press conference at Attorney Crump in July of 2023. A few days later, Pedro Martinez had a meeting with all the principals in Chicago Public Schools. And
now, who is Pedro Martinez?
Pedro Martinez was the CEO. He's now gone, but he was the CEO at the time. So all of these people were involved, Brother Willie D. And I'm gonna come back to that, but I'm gonna make this point. I'm gonna come back to it. So shortly after we had our press conference and it was all over the national news, they had a meeting with all the principals. Now I was no longer there because I was no longer a principal. But again, 44% of the principals are Black. So they sitting in this meeting with Pedro Martinez, and friends of mine told me that the atmosphere was so thick because these Black principals know what they do to what they've been doing to us for the last 10, 15 years. So Pedro Martinez couldn't even give his speech, and his second in command could not give her speech because we exposed them as the liars that they are. So we completely flipped the narrative on them. And now, of course, more and more evidence has come out of their corruption. So let me say this, Brother Willie D, because I got to put these people out there. I can't let them hide. You know that public exposure is the number one thing that they fear. And so I'm not afraid to publicly expose them. When they decided to remove me from Lindblom High School, every department in Chicago Public Schools came together. I got the list right here. Every department united. We had the Pedro Martinez, who was the CEO. His second in command, the chief education officer, her name was Bogdana Shambova. She was second in command. The Office of Network Support, my immediate supervisor, his name was Devon LaRosa. And his boss, her name is Felicia Sanders. All of these people involved in my removal, right? There's a lady named Kinshasa Williams Ford in the Office of LSC Relations. When the LSC voted for me, as the LSC voted for the white principals who came before me, this lady called the LSC and tried to get them to change their vote so that I couldn't become the principal of Lindblom. So the Office of LSC Relations, we have the Office of Principal Quality, a white woman by the name of Allison Tingwall was also involved in this. And we have the CPS Law Department, the head investigator. The teachers told the lies, but the head investigator, her name is Kelly Tarrant. She's the one that co-signed every lie that these teachers told and did not fact check a single lie. The only person she fact checked was me when they brought me in for my interview. She did not fact check not a single lie that any of these white teachers told, right? So we call Kelly Tarrant the John Burge of Chicago Public Schools because she was the one putting cases on black principals and having them removed from their position. And then we also have the Chicago Teachers Union members led by a man by the name of Andrew Heiserman. All of these people came together. All of these different offices in Chicago Public Schools came together to remove one black man from a school. Now, I need all of your listeners, just critical think with me real quick. Do they all come together to stop the fights that take place in the schools on a regular basis? Do they all come together to make sure that your children can read and write and do math? Do they all come together? We have over 400 children that are molested and raped every year in Chicago public schools. Do they all come together to make sure that the teachers aren't raping the children in the school? The enrollment has gone down every year for the last 10 years. Are they all coming together to get the enrollment back up in the schools? If your baby don't come to school for a week or 2 weeks, are they all coming together to make sure your baby come to school? Absolutely not. They lose $20 million a year in Chicago on lost equipment and computers, $20 million every year.
Is that really lost or stolen?
Together to save $20 million.
Is that lost or stolen?
Lost and stolen, both. But they not all coming together for any of those things.
Yeah.
They all came together to remove a black man that has a history and a track record of transforming schools everywhere that I've gone. So that's the importance of having a black educator. Why would they all come together? They all united to get rid of me. And because we have changed the narrative of what happened, now they're the ones being gotten rid of. Most of the people who did all this plotting on me, they're not even in Chicago public schools no more. And we're going to keep fighting until none of them are in Chicago public schools anymore. So that's why, brothers and sisters, I need you all right now. I need y'all to go on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, scroll down to the bottom in the section called Take Action. And all I'm asking you to do is click that link, send a letter to the Chicago Board of Education on my behalf. The board members, we have new board members. We want to put this right in front of them because they got to deal with it. They're going to have to deal with it either way because we taking them to court. So either way, it has to be dealt with. I'm not fighting for a job, brothers and sisters. I'm fighting for our children in Chicago public schools that I dedicated my entire life to for the last 25 years. So go on that website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. I need you all to scroll to the Take Action section. Click that link where it says send a letter to the Board of Education. And I'm looking at some of the comments on the YouTube. Brothers and sisters, we got the lawsuit. The lawsuit is in place. But we're not going to stop putting public pressure on the people who did this to myself and the other black principals in Chicago. So the lawsuit is there, but we're doing a public campaign and exposing the people for what they did. And we need you all support. If you visit justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, scroll to the section called Take Action and send that letter right there. Send that letter to the Board of Education.
So I got a radical idea here. I got a radical idea. What if black people in this country came up with a system outside of this system that we have to educate our children. And I mean all of them, because if people won't treat you right, they won't teach you right.
That's right.
And so it is my belief that these problems going to always occur. There ain't no way possible that some people, some outsiders, I don't give a damn if they do work for the school system, the school. There is no way possible that they should have enough power to remove a beloved educator. They should not have that power. They should never have the amount of power where they can get rid of an effective educator, a good educator, someone who produces, someone who is award-winning. There is no way possible they should have that amount of power. And so, in my opinion, in order to take that power away, we got to separate from them.
Yes, sir.
This education thing, because again, if they won't treat you right, they won't teach you right.
Right.
I don't believe we're ever going to get there in the way that this system is set up. The system itself is set up for us to fail. It is set up for our children to fail. And I don't believe that we're going to be able to get there under the current conditions.
And Brother Willie D, what I'll say is this. I talked about the enrollment numbers going down. And really what has happened over the last 10 years is black parents have taken their children out of Chicago public schools. The numbers for the low enrollment, or the numbers that have gone down, are black students, because black students are leaving Chicago public schools for the very reason that you're talking about. So if you had 10 black principals removed in 1 year, don't you think that the children know in each one of these schools that this is an injustice, that you took out the person that cared about us, the person that made sure we were educated, the person that made sure we ate, the person that made sure we went on field trips and this, that, and the third? You took that person out that was a pillar in the school and made sure that we as students had everything that we needed. You don't think that you're not going to reap what you've sown? And you want black parents to continue to bring their children to schools where they're hated and disliked by teachers, and CPS management is disconnected from the reality of black children and black families' lives. So what you're saying is already happening, because the numbers for black families is continuing to decline, because black people are exploring their options when it comes to the education of their children. I want to say this because I'm looking in the chat, and someone asked, is Brother Troy LaRaviere still involved? Absolutely. Troy LaRaviere is the president, or was the president, of the Chicago's Principals Union. He's 100%. We've been fighting. That's my brother. He went to the mat for me several times in this fight, so we're still fighting. And another person asked about the involvement of Mayor Brandon Johnson in this fight. We have appealed to the mayor. We've talked to the mayor, all of that. Even though this is a fight for black principals, we have not gotten any public support, I would say, from the mayor, even though we have reached out to the mayor regarding this several times. So, but regardless of that, we're still going to fight for what we know is an unjust situation in the city of Chicago. And I'll say this about that, our brother, Mayor Brandon Johnson. When we had the press conference at Father Pfleger's church on May 18th of 2023, we got a call. When I say we, I'm talking about me and Troy LaRaviere from the Principals Union. We got a call that the mayor wanted to speak with us on a Zoom the next day, May 19th, Malcolm X's birthday. So Troy and I get on a Zoom with the mayor, and Troy says to the mayor, he says, if you want to get rid of Pedro Martinez, who's the CEO, he said, if you want to get rid of Pedro and bring in your own team that shares your vision, we're giving it to you on a platter. Because we had all the evidence. The mayor could have came in, and we weren't asking people to believe us. We were asking them to do an investigation of what happened. And if they did an investigation, then they would see the corruption if they did the investigation. So the mayor could have brought in his own group into the school. So the mayor, he did, the mayor, he didn't do that. He didn't.
Sound like the mayor part of the problem, man. I said.
Yes, sir.
Sound like me that the mayor is part of the problem.
What I want to say is this, brother Willie D, is that exactly 1 year later, Mayor Johnson is having a public fight with Pedro Martinez. So 1 year later, because Pedro Martinez was using his position as the CEO of Chicago Public Schools to undermine the mayor. So now the mayor wants to get rid of Pedro Martinez. And for a whole year, the mayor and Pedro Martinez were having a public fight. And every day the newspaper is dragging the mayor through the mud. They dragging Pedro Martinez through the mud. And it comes to the point where they decide to fire Pedro Martinez. But when they decide to fire him, they can't fire him. Well, they fire him without a cause. And because they fired him without a cause, they had to pay him $600,000. Then he turned around and sued the city for the unjust firing. And then he went to the judge, and the judge said, you have to let him finish his term as the CEO of Chicago Public Schools. I'm saying all that to say, had the mayor listened to his brother a year earlier, it would have prevented him from going through all of that, because we had the evidence and still have the evidence that he could have justified firing Pedro and bringing in his own people. So, this is what it is, brother. That's why you should stand for your people. Yeah. It's always best to stand for your people, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us. But we gave the mayor that opportunity, and the mayor did not take that opportunity and ended up suffering the consequences politically of not taking that opportunity.
Man, this whole case is mind-blowing, because you get rid of a decorated educator, someone who is beloved, someone who has receipts of turning things around. This is what you're looking for. You say we need better educators. We need the best. We need to bring them in, and then we get them. We get rid of them. To me, that's like firing a firefighter who saved the block because somebody complained about the sirens being too loud. Right. It makes no sense to me. Off topic, off topic, but in pocket. Right. There's a lot of cases of teachers and coaches getting busted for having sex with students. You alluded to that a little earlier in our conversation. Mm-hmm. Now, how did you deal with that as an educator?
Brother, I'm glad you brought that up, because this right here, Brother Willie D, and we have not discussed it, is the most critical part of the entire campaign of lies that they came against me with, right? I must just say some of the lies so y'all can kind of understand how petty they were. On the first day of school, which I do at every school every year, on the first day of school, I put on a pep rally, huge pep rally. I work with a lot of Chicago artists and celebrities. And so I bring them all to the school on the first day, not the first day, it was the first Friday of the school year. And we put on a big pep rally for the students. The students love it. It's off the chain. And the white teachers lied to the law department and said that the first lie they told, he made strange and unusual purchases, balloons and a DJ for a pep rally. Brother Willie D, I'm not making this up. Like, this is in the report. I'm not making this up. Then they said that the DJ that I brought in, the host, was soliciting money from the students by telling people to follow her on Cash App. This is in the report. And we told them, you can't follow nobody on Cash App. And they ignored it. I'm like, Brother Willie D, I'm not making this up. They said this white man teacher, Ian Brannigan, said that on December 22nd, Mr. Muhammad came to work late. This was the first snowstorm in Chicago of that year. So, of course, when it snows, people come behind, right? So the white teacher, Ian Brannigan, lied and said, on December 22nd, Muhammad came late. And when he came, he didn't do anything to help the school. Brother Willie D, the Kelly Tarrant, the racist lady who works in the law department, the head investigator, the John Burge of Chicago Public Schools, she didn't fact check what this white teacher said. All you have to do is pull the time clock. You pull the time clock for December 22nd, and it tells you exactly what time I clocked in on that day. So since they didn't pull the time clock, we pulled it. And on December 22nd, I clocked in at 7:42, and Ian Brannigan clocked in after me. But these people, they did not fact check a single lie that these white teachers told. So when we started to fight them and we got their report and we saw all these lies in their report, they knew they lied. So then they had to come with a bigger lie. And this lie that they came with destroys people's careers. So once they came with all the petty stuff and we refuted it, even though I'd already been removed from the school, but they never thought this was going to be made public. After I was removed on March 31st, I received a letter on April 17th. Again, I was removed on March 31st. I received a letter on April 17th from the Chicago Public Schools Office of Inspector General. They're also involved in this. And that letter on April 17th said that I was under investigation for failure to report alleged sexual harassment of a student at Lindblom. So now, because the petty charges couldn't hold up, they had to come with something that's extremely serious, right? So now, Brother Willie D, like I said from the beginning, we have all actual facts. The liar, her name is Kelly Tarrant, the head investigator in the law department. If you read her report, they have a thing called an Aspen report where you put in incidents, right? Is whatever happens. It could be a fight, injury, whatever. In her investigative report, Kelly Tarrant quotes an Aspen report. In the Aspen report, there's 4 Lindblom teachers' names mentioned. The student went to 4 teachers. Their names are in the Aspen report. I know their names because I was there. Daniel Atta, LaConda McDaniel. What's this other lady's name? Daniel Atta, LaConda McDaniel. The other 2 are slipping my mind. It may come to me. The student went to 4 Lindblom teachers. It's in the report. My name is nowhere in the Aspen report because the student never came to me and told me anything, right? But this liar, Kelly Tarrant, the head investigator of the law department, lied and said that the student came to me with the complaint and I didn't do anything about it. Brother Willie D, the Aspen report is dated February 1st. The only reason there's an investigation, the only reason there was an investigation is because when my assistant principal came to me and let me know what happened, the first thing I told her to do was to call the Office of the Inspector General and start the investigation. And that investigation was started on February 1st of 2023 at my direction. LaConda McDaniel, the lying black woman at Lindblom, emailed Kelly Tarrant on February 28th and told her the lie that I did not report alleged sexual harassment of a student. So now that's 27 days after the investigation had already started. So Kelly Tarrant already knew I was innocent because the first thing she did was pull the Aspen report that's dated February 1st, and my name is nowhere in it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What did the students say? And what did the students?
I'm glad you said that.
What did the students' parents say?
I'm glad that's a great question because February 5th, I met with the student and both parents in my office, and I let them know that the investigation had already started on February 1st. I have an email on February 6th from the parent thanking me for starting the investigation. So, Brother Willie D, we got all this evidence. We got the Aspen report. We got the email. We got the meeting with the parents. I have my text messages between myself and my assistant principal. We have all of this evidence that's undisputable. But this liar, Kelly Tarrant, the John Burge of Chicago Public Schools, this racist that's sitting in the law department, ignored all of that evidence and put the blame of this thing not being reported on Abdul Muhammad. When they interviewed the parent and the student, when the CPS interviewed them, The student told them that the first time I spoke to Mr. Muhammad was when I sat down in the office with my parents. That was February 5th. So they got all of this. But again, this is the level of corruption in Chicago public schools. So whenever a complaint comes to me about anybody looking at a student, talking to any about the first thing that every adult is supposed to do is they're supposed to report it. So the investigation, they're not supposed to take the student to somebody else. What happened at Lindblom, I'm gonna tell you what happened. At Lindblom, when the student went to an adult, they took the student to 4 other adults and had the student repeat the story to 4 other adults. And none of them did anything. The only person that did something with this particular student was me. As soon as I got the report, the first thing I did was direct my assistant principal to start that investigation. Everybody else was getting this and doing nothing. All of this is what they're covering up.
And what happened to those teachers?
Oh, they're still there. That's my point. All of this.
All of these teachers. I'm
Brother Willie D, I'm not making this up. The only person that has been investigated in this entire thing, with the stealing the money, with the student injuries, with all of that, with this particular, the only person they investigated was Abdul Muhammad. They're covering everything up.
So the teachers that were accused of
they're still at Lindblom.
They're still at the school.
They're still at Lindblom right now.
Perhaps still violating other.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The lady who was stealing money still works for Chicago Public Schools. They just moved her to a different school. They moved her out of Lindblom to another school.
So they pretty much do. That's how they kind of do with police officers. Bad police officers. They kind of move them to another department or another county. Yeah. Okay. It's like that over there. Okay. I don't know. I thought Chicago schools system educators at the top. I thought the people at the top were supposed to be the best of the best. It just seemed like to me, time and time again, the people at the top are the worst of the worst. We got to shut it down. But
yes,
if you could speak directly to the students you've championed for decades,
right,
what would you want them to know about what happened and what comes next?
Brother Willie D, the thing that I would tell them is, as a Black man, all of us in Black people in general, but as a Black man myself particularly, we always are treated differently in these particular cases. In my particular case, Brother Willie D, I did everything quote unquote right. I went to school, I never, I'm not on drugs, I'm not shooting up the block, none of that. I don't sag my pants, all the stuff that they say, well, you do this, you do this, you do this. I did all of that. I went, like people say, well, I got 2 degrees. I got 2 degrees. I went to college, right? I got 2 degrees. I graduated from Southern in Baton Rouge, right? So I did all of that, right? Every school that I walked into, I went above and beyond. If my students were here, and at this point, it's thousands of them. If they were here, they would tell you, they're my greatest witness to the work that I've done for the last 25 years. They would tell you the work that I put in above and beyond. Not just that, but also the community work that I do outside of the school, right? So I talked about Nancy B. Jefferson. I'm not there anymore, but from 2016 all the way to today, I've been going back to Nancy B. Jefferson. In fact, I'm going there tonight for a graduation. So I'm not just committed.
You're letting you on campus?
Oh, brother. So let me say this about Nancy B. Jefferson. The Nancy B. Jefferson is it's controlled by Cook County, right? The school is run by Chicago Public Schools, but because they're incarcerated students, the facility is run by Cook County, right? When I was there, Brother Willie D, everybody, the judges, the lawyers, the security guards, everybody on Cook County, everybody from Cook County who runs that facility loves Abdul Muhammad. Everybody. When I go there tonight, when I walk in, and I've been there every year since I left, multiple times, I'm getting love from everybody. Every year, myself and Chicago celebrities, every year in December, we bring gifts to the brothers and sisters that's incarcerated at Nancy B. Jefferson. We bring them food. We share brotherhood and sisterhood with them. We bring them gifts. We've been doing this since 2016. And we're going to keep doing it. So the people there brother, when I walk in tonight, they're going to treat me like a celebrity. It's Chicago public school officials who see the work that I've done for the last 25 years and for all of this time have been putting stumbling blocks in the way of the work that I'm doing. Those are the ones, and it's various reasons why, but it is what it is. So, but no, I got love from everybody on Cook County. The brother who's the second in command, he's the one that asked me to be there tonight for the graduation. So I'm gonna be there tonight for the graduation. But what I would tell my students is that, you have to keep fighting no matter what it is. I'm 100% innocent. And, part of me didn't want to fight, but when I saw the lies that they told, I had no choice. So me fighting is not just for me, it's for all the students, because they know my reputation. They know the work that I've done for the last 25 years in Chicago. Me fighting also is a fight because, some of these people, the white teachers at Lindblom specifically, are mad because I'm a Muslim in the Nation of Islam. I'm not going to change that for you. I'm never going to change that. I'm never going to deny that for anybody. So if you have a problem with that, that's your problem. These people in CPS, they always say when they are promoting this fake equity stuff, they always say you should show up as your authentic self. But when Abdul Muhammad showed up as his authentic self, you had a problem with it. So I'm not going to stop being me because you got a problem. That's your problem. But that is the message that I would give to my students. It's going to be points in your life where you're going to have to fight and you just can't lay down. I'm at that point in my life, so I'm fighting and I'm going to keep fighting until we have the victory. And that's why, brothers and sisters, we want y'all to go on justiceforabdulmuhammad.com because we want you all to join this fight for the Black children in Chicago and all over the country. Go to justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, scroll down to the bottom in the Take Action section and click the link to send that letter to the Chicago Board of Education. We got to put pressure, not just the legal pressure. We got the legal pressure. The case is in court. You can look it up. Abdul Muhammad versus Chicago Public Schools. The case is there, but we got to keep this legal pressure up. This is why we want you to go on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, click that link to send the letter to the Board of Education on my behalf.
And on behalf of the rest of us, man, thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, Abdul Muhammad. Salute.
Man, I appreciate you, brother. I definitely appreciate you and everything that you're doing. And I got to say this, brother Willie D. When you come to Chicago, we definitely want to bring you to talk to the young people that's incarcerated at Nancy B. Jefferson. So all you have to do is let me know. Again, all I got to do is make the call. And they're gonna make all the arrangements. That's how much the people in Cook County have respect and love for me. So if you or anybody that you know, any of the other celebrities that you have relationships with, because the thing about the celebrities is the impact that you all have on these young people is tremendous. And a lot of them may not understand it. But when I was at a school called Julian, which is on 103rd in Chicago in the Wild Hundreds, we were invited to the Bulls game by Joakim Noah. And Joakim was like, man, look, I need the worst of the worst students in the school. And that's what we did. We got the worst of the worst, the ones that was fighting and doing all this other kind of stuff. Man, we got to the Bulls game. They gave us VIP. We sat courtside. Joakim came out. And two brothers, young brothers that had just sent the whole school up in a fight the week before, Joakim brought them together with him because we let them know, yeah, these are the ones. These are the ones you wanted. And all he had to say, man, we'll cut that out. And brother, after that, they posted the pictures on Facebook. Them brothers was best friends after that, Willie D. So just a word from these celebrities. When I brought Jay Prince to the juvenile detention center, same thing. Just a word from the people that they idolize and look up to, it goes a long way. So anytime you in Chicago, it's an open door. All I need is 24 hours and sometimes less than that because they love me so much. And we want you talking to them young people and dropping jewels on them.
Yeah, I take advantage of those type of situations, man. When I was in middle school, Robert Reed, who you might know, used to play for the Houston Rockets.
Right.
He came to our school, and when he walked in, man, the praise that he got and the undivided attention that he had, it really had me like I was in a daze because I was one of the students that was disruptive. Anytime somebody come to the school to speak, I'd be like, man, I ain't trying to hear all of that. Woo woo. But when Robert Reed came, somebody that I actually admired, somebody that I knew from television, and then I saw the respect that he got, I was like, I was very, very quiet, and I was listening very attentively. And the trip part about that was 10 years later, I was invited to my old school to speak, and in that very same cafeteria, and I got the same reaction that Robert Reed got.
Yes,
so
sir.
I understand the importance. I do understand the importance, and that's why I do try to rally the troops and do as much as I can, man, to try to get in these youngsters' ears.
And I definitely
We appreciate your service, man. I mean, you're doing a wonderful job, and I ain't got to tell you to keep on going, because I already know that's how you wired. But thank you again, man.
Thank you, Brother Willie D. I appreciate you, man. Nothing but love, brother.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Abdul Muhammad. No more talk.